Today on This is Manitoba, we're taking it to the street, but not just any street. The busiest traffic route running through Winnipeg, Kenaston Boulevard, aka Route 90, where 78,000 vehicles pass through every day. And everyone has an opinion about how to improve it. After all, we've been talking about this in this province for years, for decades, but maybe not successfully.
I found over the years the way and I can't help but use air quotes, the consultation or the engagement sessions, even worse use of terminology. The way they're structured really is set up to kind of inflame people, like the commuting cyclist versus the directly impacted homeowner.
Something needs to be done with Kenaston, repairs for sure.
We're going to have better infrastructure. This complex in particular has undergone a lot of renewal. There's a lot of younger people, but I'm not entirely sure how aware they are of what's going to change here.
So let's explore what's going to change here. I'm Marcy Markusa. Today on This is Manitoba, we're going to have a close look at Kenaston, the widening of Kenaston to six lanes, active transportation routes on either side, and the St. James Bridge spans that are going to be refurbished as well. This project isn't just big in how many years it's going to take, but also when shovels are expected to go in the ground in 2027. We're going to pay as taxpayers $757 million for this. The mayor's going to be on the podcast. He ran on this.
Roads move Winnipeg's economy. Most Winnipeggers are drivers. That's why I'm announcing my big move. We'll expand Kenaston Boulevard and build Chief Peguis Trail Extension. We'll add more buses to our transit route and add more bike lanes. It's all costed and realistic and will be financed through a dedicated tax so you can see your value for money.
So that's Scott Gillingham. You might remember that campaign promise and that campaign ad from 2022 if you are here in Manitoba. We'll find out from him today, though, on the podcast, where are we at and why does he maintain this as a must-do for the city of Winnipeg and not just something that would be nice to have. This is Manitoba. Thanks for being here. Well, before we turn to the mayor, we thought we'd get started with someone who has some serious skin in the game. And more than that, her whole life will be changed if this project and when this project goes through, potentially. I'm saying that because Carol Styles isn't quite sure if they're going to have to take her house, physically actually take over her property, buy her out and expropriate her, if this goes through. She's skeptical because she's been to so many different open houses over the years. Her house is in a neighborhood called River Heights, Sir John Franklin. It is just adjacent to Kenaston, as you'll hear. I went out to visit her. It's a 1 3/4 story classic home. She has these neatly manicured green hydrangea bushes and a painted front door, and she's done a lot of renos as well. She's never spoken out before, but she wanted to share her perspective with CBC. Here's what it sounded like when I visited with her. Well, imagine the city coming to you and saying that your house would be a, quote, full take. That's an actual quote. It's what a less than eloquent city planner said to Carol Styles. She lives here on Carpathia Road. Now, as you can see behind me, we are one street off of Kenaston. We're just east of Kenaston Boulevard. And so she was at one of the open houses back in the day and learning about what might happen to her property and her home. And that's what was said to her in front of her little kids at the time. What it means is that this home here that Styles has lived in since 2001 is one of those at the time that has been both on and off the list over the years for expropriation. That basically means that it will be torn down and bought by the city. Styles is one of potentially 78 private homeowners affected by this project, the widening of Kenaston Boulevard and these new bridge spans. But as you're about to hear, she's still renovating her bathroom, and you can see how beautiful her home is today, and you can probably hear her off camera. Here she is with us in front of her home. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Marcy.
So what did that feel like, that moment, being told you'd be a quote-unquote full take?
Well, after explaining to my young son, who asked, "What does that mean, Mummy?" I, of course, got really, really intensely angered and frustrated because at the time, the plans to date had not shown us being directly affected. Now everybody in the neighborhood's going to be affected, and people passing through the neighborhood are going to be impacted during the estimated 6-year construction timeline for this big project. But at the time, our understanding was our property and even our neighbor's property at the beginning wasn't slated to be expropriated.
Yeah. What does it feel like to be a homeowner right here?
Well, I know people who are in a much more difficult situation than we are, but it is something, truthfully, that it does kind of weigh on you, but it waxes and wanes because every time there's a civic election or people think we're going to get some shovel-ready funds, people start talking about it and score a few points because everybody gets frustrated with the commute. But over the years, we've learned to just set it aside because it's not a certainty.
I think that I just can't even imagine being in this situation, like living right here. And then over the years, every time Kenaston comes up or a councillor mentions it, what happens on your street?
Oh, people talk. We love our neighbors. We're on a few iterations of neighbors. People who have had the means to move have moved. Have made that choice that's best for them, and other people have difficulty selling their homes, so that affects property value. Of course, it's a hot topic at work and at when you get together with family and friends, because people want to know, hey, what's happening with Kenaston? What's happening with your house? Well, you know as much as I do.
How tired are you of that question? And maybe as you explained it to me, for sale signs going up every time it gets raised here in this part of Winnipeg.
And then worse, young families moving in and not knowing in advance, and then finding out after the fact.
How do they find out after the fact?
I don't know, just word of mouth on the street or when it comes up in the media.
Got it.
So. We did make that decision early on after the first consultation in 2008-9, where we're third house in. We were then on the plan second house in, and there were multiple improvements, a sound fence, blocking the visual on appeal of the traffic, etc. And we made the decision then. We had a daycare spot. We were starting our family and school, and we thought, let's just see if we can get the kids through school and set this aside. It's not something we can control, and there's no money for it. And lo and behold, I have one in university, one in grade 11, and we did consult a lawyer on what are our rights and how does it all work, which was very reassuring. But we just weren't in a position to put ourselves further in debt with the housing market to move on spec when we might not need to.
Yeah.
So
isn't that saying something? These little kids back in the day that you had and you thought, well, we'll give it a shot, maybe the kids will be through school, and you said they're like
16 and 18.
16 and 18 now.
One wasn't even born yet at that first consultation.
How many years? Renovating the house. What's that like, having to make that decision when you have this in the background? Because as I said, you're doing the bathroom right now even.
Really, really challenging. Before we did put an addition on, but we did that assessment, make or buy. Do we move? Do we uproot? Do we find something that we could live with close by? Or do we, take the risk and roll the dice and put an addition on? And the lawyer assured us that the city has to make you whole, meaning that whatever I carry as a mortgage, I should not be further in debt as a result of having been expropriated.
I'm just going to interject here and talk to the listeners for a minute because the math doesn't work yet. And here's why. Because they're saying 78 private properties, and they're saying that the city has set aside $5 million to cover that. I did quick math. So let's say Carol's house is worth $300,000. It will be more if you look at anywhere in this River Heights Fort, Sir John Franklin neighborhood, you'll know that. That adds up to $23 million plus. So how clear has the city been with you? Do you have any idea whether or not, what's going to happen with your future? I mean, this is also your investment.
No, we're not clear. There are people who are super frustrated that they just take me out. If they know they're going to be taken out, some people haven't actually put the investment into upkeeping their home, which then further reduces the value. We want people to get what they need. And if the city is going to take them out, then they should honor that. But don't take them out on spec and leave us even wider open to the traffic when you haven't actually even secured the budget and confirmed, what do you need?
You're a nurse.
Yep.
Your husband is a teacher. You said you have a kid in university. Are you letting your mind think about what it would mean if they say, no, this is it, Carol, we really are going to take your house, you're going to be expropriated? What was that going to mean for your life at this stage?
Well, with what I have on my plate right now, I'm going to deal with that at the time, but we'll get reconnected with our lawyer or one of his colleagues and make sure that we're well represented so that we're made whole.
You get fair compensation.
Yeah.
Let's look over here for a second. I'm going to turn around and stand by Carol, because you see this fence over here right on the edge of her property? What if they came up to there? Because that was part of one of the plans. What if they said they're going to do about noise? Like, do you have an understanding of what that would mean for you?
No, the noise attenuation plan has waxed and waned over the years, including being non-existent.
How would you feel about living beside a sound fence in 6 lanes?
Well, I've gone behind in different neighborhoods. We've gone on field trips, like on the Charleswood Parkway, and gone behind the fence one. Yeah, it's pretty quiet. Like, I'd rather have trees and not be choking on a fence.
You've gone on field trips.
Everybody gets a big, tall, 12-foot tall, at least an 8-foot tall sound fence. And usually they're pretty reasonable. It's noisy now. We've been saying plug the hole for years.
Yeah.
Close the road. But again, they need emergency access. But I just get on with it already. People are just tired of the uncertainty. We want to know what we're getting, and we want the improvements. We don't like driving on it either.
So that was my visit with Carol Styles, who lives on Carpathia Road. That's 1 street east of Kenaston Boulevard in the heart of Winnipeg. As you heard, her house very well may be in the way of this project. We are going to continue to explore this on the podcast today. Just want to take a moment to thank you for being here with us, and wherever you're listening from. Remember, we have a new episode each and every Friday for you here of This is Manitoba. Well, remember when I started and I said that everyone has an opinion about this? They certainly do. We spoke with CBC in advance of our episode here with commuters who are anxious to get this going. We also know there's a lot of at stake in terms of this being part of a major trade route corridor here. If you don't know the city of Winnipeg, it runs right through, and it connects up to something called Centerport, which is where a lot of truck traffic and gathers and goes. And right now it's bottlenecking at the bridges. We also heard from a number of different residents. Now, in addition to what we heard from Carol, she also wanted to weigh in on what it's been like in some of the consultations over the years. So before we hear from the mayor, Scott Gillingham, let's hear again from Carol and a few more residents. This is also Becky Lett, who's a Kenaston Village resident, and Larry Dargis. He also lives in Carpathia. He's chair of a group called the Kenaston Community Network.
It's been minimal communication with them, both from the city level and anything in the planning. It's been 2 years since they've actually invited people to an open house to look at the plans, and over the years those have become fluid. We've looked at how they've added an intersection. There's at least 3 pedestrian corridors that are triggered. That means the person walks up, pushes a button, and stops the traffic and walks across the street. The other thing is that we're not seeing the increase in traffic that 78,000 vehicles, that's only up about 10% from the 90s.
I found over the years the way and I can't help but use air quotes, the consultation or the engagement sessions, even worse use of terminology, the way they're structured really is set up to kind of inflame people like the commuting cyclist versus the directly impacted homeowner who might have just found out before the session. Then they started having separate sessions for different groups of people, which is kind of your classic divide and conquer.
We're going to have better infrastructure. Just this past year, the pavement was redone on Kenaston, and that's been a huge improvement. This stretch has been severely impacted by the recent transit system changes. Our service has been cut down by about 30%, which is difficult for me because I have certain mobility limitations, and it's very, very difficult for me to get quickly from here to Grant or here to Corydon. So I'm hoping for better sidewalks, improved active transportation corridors, and ideally increased bus service.
Everyone has an opinion about Kenaston. Now, those are some of the immediate folks that live here around Grant and Kenaston. We heard there from Becky Lett, Kenaston Village resident. She's excited about this project, but she also has some concerns about access and what it's going to mean. We also heard there from Carol Styles, her full story coming up after 8. She lives on Carpathia. She's been facing expropriation for like 2 decades. Sometimes the house is needed, sometimes not. She is not happy with how the consultation processes have happened around this. And then we heard from Larry Dargis, who was with us live earlier. He lives on Carpathia. He's the chair, actually, of the Kenaston Community Network. And as you heard him saying there, he also feels there's been minimal communication, especially in the last 2 years. Now, I'm also speaking to the audience, but I'm speaking to you too, Mayor Scott Gillingham. I know you heard all of these things. Let me just start with a big question. You have said this is not like negotiable. We need to do this. Why do we need to do it?
Well, first of all, we do need to do it because we're not making decisions for the present state of Winnipeg. We're making decisions for the future state of Winnipeg. And, you know, people often refer to it, I've heard you refer to it a couple of times, as the widening of Kenaston. This is not just the widening of Kenaston. The widening of Kenaston is one of many projects in this work. And it's about a third of the total cost. What is really critical is we need to renew the bridges. As you've indicated, 78,000 vehicles go over those bridges every day. And Kenaston, it's not a local road. It's not a residential street. It is one of the main transportation economic arteries in all of Winnipeg. And what we've got right now is we have the southwest of Winnipeg, which is quadrupled in its population in the last 50 years. It's the fastest growing part of the city. The northwest is growing rapidly as well. And Route 90 connects those two communities. And right across the street from where we're sitting today is now Odina.
Yeah, they're going to be on the air with us after 8.
Which will be the largest infill project in Winnipeg's history. It's one of the largest infill projects in all of Western Canada. And that will accommodate, at full build-out, about 3,000 residents, another 1 million square feet of commercial space. So the growth is happened, and it's going to happen even more.
What do you take to Larry's challenge? You heard him say, 78,000 vehicles, but he figures that's about 10% up from the 90s. So that doesn't seem like that big of a number from the 90s to have that increase. Why are you confident that moving forward it's going to be even more? Because of some of what you mentioned?
At a minimum, we're going to be adding 3,000 units of housing, which, whatever that translates to into the number of people and vehicles. And our economy continues to grow. What we've got right now is the section that we're talking about of Kenaston that needs the work. The bridges, the sewer work, the adding of bike lanes to this area, improving our transportation, the widening of the road. It's a choke point right now. Anyone who has driven Kenaston Boulevard knows that this is a choke point in the whole system, in the largest, or probably the most, the busiest transportation route.
When you look at how long this has been taking, we're going to hear from Carol after 8. She's been to consultation projects, processes as a resident here who may have her home expropriated, bought out by the city to build this. She says she knows something has to be done on Kenaston. She knows there's a process here, but she feels like the consultation, and she put it in air quotes to her to say that, has really not been that. It's been, we're doing this and here's what might happen. And she says a lot of people just don't have clarity here about what will happen for them as residents. And she does feel like people have been pitted against each other, like separating the consultations. Let's hear from the residents, and now let's hear from the active transport people. And she feels like the process has been a little bit of a mess. Is that a fair comment?
Well, certainly there would, in my time, there would never be a goal to pit one group against the other. We just wouldn't do that. The goal is to communicate with the residents. I think there's been at least 5 rounds of consultation. There needs to be more communication with residents as we go. So that always, the goal is always to improve that. There's no doubt. And if residents are lacking information, please reach out to the city and ask for the information. We'll try to provide it. But at the end of the day, and it's important to talk to the residents, but if we don't get this project built, and if we don't include the widening as part of the project, what's going to happen is we will go down. We have to redo the bridges. We have to. They will go down to single lane in either way for up to 4 years, because each bridge will have to be done independent. And what that will do, Marcy, is it will push traffic trying to cut through. It'll push it into the residential areas. This happens already now. And we'll see people trying to cut through residential roads in Tuxedo and in River Heights.
When will residents have clear answers about whether or not their properties are going to be needed for this? You have 78 properties on the books because people are in limbo. And they also say, by the way, Carol, who we'll hear from after 8, would say she doesn't want to leave the impression out there that she doesn't think things need to be done, the bridges and the roadways. It's just she feels the communication hasn't been clear. She doesn't know if her house is going to go or not. She doesn't know why bikes couldn't be going on parallel routes. Why do you have to widen it even more to have, parallel active transportation? She just feels like the process has been a little bit muddy. So when will people know if they're going to get their houses bought?
Well, as these projects progress, then certainly that communication will continue. If people need information they don't have right now, please reach out to the city and ask for that information. We'll try to get it to you. What we've got before us right now is a report that recommends we put $5 million into the city's 2026 budget to purchase lands that are needed.
Is that a low estimate? I couldn't make figure out the math because Carol's house is going to be where this is conservative. I mean, in River Heights here, so this is conservative, $300,000, single family home. If you times that by 78, you're going to come up with over 23 million. You have 5 million budgeted. I don't get it.
Well, this is the recommendation of the public service based on their analysis of what we need to do as a first step. And so that's what the public service has said in their design, that we need to begin with $5 million for land acquisition to accommodate this work.
We can't do this without money from the feds or the province. Yes or no?
That's exactly right. Yeah, and all along, I appreciate you said, I heard you say it was part of my campaign commitment. It is. This project, in my estimation, needs to be done for the future of Winnipeg, for our growth. What we need, federal and provincial partnerships, and I envision that it would be a one-third cost-sharing arrangement.
The feds have said no to you twice, though, already on this, and now we're $20 million more year over year. What makes you confident that they're going to come to the table?
This is an economic trade route. It's one of the most important, if not the busiest economic trade route. The economy, a strong economy, is critical to the federal and provincial government. This also ties us into 17 Wing. It ties us into the airport as well. And, I know that the Prime Minister is really keen and really focused on making significant investments in Canada's defence. We have a large defence presence here in Winnipeg, and I think that this could accommodate that vision that he has.
Why did we have a plebiscite about Portage in Maine? And, we had endless public discourse about that. And yet it may seem to some people listening across Winnipeg that they kind of have no say on Kenaston.
I think that political leaders need to make decisions, and I think it's time for us to make this decision for the future of Winnipeg. This is not about the present state of this city. It's about a project that needs to be built for the future of where Winnipeg will be in the coming years.
What do you say to those who champion a green city and feel this is continuing to fly in the face of that?
Well, this work will actually accommodate. It'll add bike lanes for cyclists, active transportation pathways for those that choose to walk.
But you know the argument, urban sprawl, more people going to the neighborhoods, and then the older neighborhood here is going to...
This is the largest infill project in the city's history. We'll have more densification here, right here, which really, for those who envision, that kind of design of a city, this project will accommodate and needs to accommodate the growth of up to 3,000 residents here, right across the street from us.
St. James bridges go to 1962, right? The spans?
I believe so.
Yeah. So what about Arlington Bridge?
Well, we've got money in the budget for that this year. We're starting the demolition. Well, the demolition won't start in 2025, but we put money aside to do the demolition as the first step of Arlington Bridge and the redesign of a new bridge. Was
it ever considered to have it be 4 lanes? To have the active transportation lanes be taken out of the project as parallel, to use side streets instead, like Lockwood, for example, goes right through, and then to have it maintained at 4 lanes, and maybe have collector streets that could have been developed over the last 10 years. Why are we stuck on the 6 lanes? What do we understand about how traffic moves that makes that necessary?
A couple of things. It will, first of all, it'll accommodate the work of the rework on the bridges, right? We can't come to a place where we get down to 1 lane each way for up to 4 years. That would be traffic chaos. But also, the widening accommodates a better transit flow. as well for those that want to use transit. Better transit connectivity, more, better safety in the intersections for this large infill project and the growth of what is going to be right across the street from us.
I know you have an appointment, so we have 1 minute left, so I'm going to respect that. I'm just telling listeners. I have to ask about busing. Becky brought up that. What will this mean for people that live right on Kenaston in this area to be able to access their bus routes? She's hoping for wider sidewalks. What's the reality of that?
Well, the reality is by doing this work and the project as envisioned, including the widening as one of the components, it will allow us to better accommodate buses and better accommodate pedestrians as well in a safer manner.
Just last then, 6 years of construction. Is that about what we're expecting if you get shovels in the ground in 2027?
The goal is 2027. I don't know if it's 6 years or not, but it could be that. We've been talking about this project for a long time. It's a complicated projects plural, because as I said, I think it's important that we talk about it's not just widening, it's several projects, all of which I've articulated today, and so that's going to take a few years. But again, one of the reasons to do all of this work, including the widening, is we can't get to the place where we're choking traffic even further. Can you imagine Kenaston Boulevard? Single lane, either way, for up to 4 years. Nobody wants that.
Thank you for being here live.
Thank you.
That is the mayor of the city of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, weighing in on Kenaston Boulevard. If you want to weigh in too, I always like to remind you can reach us at radio893@cbc.ca. I'm Marcy Markusa. Thanks for hanging out here today. I know there were a lot of comments on our Facebook page as we explored this issue because there's so many perspectives. So please reach out to This Is Manitoba and let us know what you think.